Now, the first session is all about women as climate warriors. Very germane to this evening, the world is staring at a climate change crisis, and unfortunately, it's women and children who are the worst impacted, especially in developing countries. Climate-led businesses are increasingly preferring to hire more women in their workforce, as they believe that women are the worst impacted. They would then obviously be more sensitive, and hence they would drive impact more efficiently. This lovely panel is going to consist of Vaishali Nigam Sinha, co-founder and chairperson, Renew and Sustainability; Dipali Goenka, CEO and managing director, Wellspun Living; Preeti Bajaj, CEO and MD, Luminous Power Technologies; Ritu Gangrade Arora, CEO and CIO, Allianz Investment Management Asia Pacific, and it will be moderated by my brilliant colleague, Ajita Shashidhar. A huge round of applause, please.
Thank you, Ayush, and welcome all of you, and welcome and thank you so much to all my dear panelists who have made so much of effort to come early. Many of them are winners today. You're going to see them on the stage later during the evening. But I really appreciate all of you to take so much time ahead of time and come here. So women as climate warriors. So Ayush just mentioned that women are the worst impacted when it comes to climate disruptions. And as you all know, floods, earthquakes, heat waves have become a way of life. And unfortunately, 80% of the people who are impacted are women. But what is heartening is that research shows that women are the best equipped to lead climate-related businesses. And again, all the wonderful ladies here are solving for climate change in one way or the other. So I would like to start with you, Vaishali. So research suggests that women's participation in the workforce and climate change go hand in hand. And you are like doing a lot of, I've talked to you many times, and you're doing a lot of work in solving for climate change. Why not? How about you telling our audience as to how are they related together? How are they correlated? How is women participation in the workforce and climate change really correlated?
Yeah, hi, Jayata. First of all, thank you for putting this panel together, and I want to congratulate the magazine for this list and the expansion to 100, and I think it's very encouraging and motivating for many women, as it's quite difficult for women to get into the workforce even now. It may not seem that way, but that is a stark reality, and we see that not only in India, but globally. I think there are two different things. Women and climate, as Mr. Allahabadi mentioned and Saurabh mentioned, that women are at the receiving end of climate. I think more than 80% of women actually solve for issues on the ground when it comes to climate-related problems. So they are problem solvers. But when it comes to finding jobs and areas of impact, whether it's policy at the highest level or it's on the grassroots, even in the farms working, they never consulted, either at the policy level or at the grassroots level. So the fact is, it's an untapped area which requires the supply is there, but the demand is not really in place. And so whether it is institutions who must have leaders, in our company, I'm from Renew, which is a leading renewable energy company. In fact, it's a decarbonizing platform. We have 40% diversity on our board, right? And I want to say that it makes a huge difference. And over the last 4 years, since COVID, our D&I ratio has improved by 80%, right? So the fact is that when you have women leading, you have the actual impact by specific processes, initiatives, policy changes taking place on the ground. And as far as climate and business is concerned, I think they're not separate anymore. I think no business can operate in a world of today without climate sort of solving for climate at the heart of what they do, whether it is fashion, whether it is oil and gas, whether it is transportation, any sector. Finance, you really do need to have green at the heart of whatever you do. And I've personally always looked at women's participation in the workforce as a participation very blind to gender, because I do believe that women are better at the workplace. Wow. So we don't really need to do more for them. We need to learn more from them. So that's my take.
Dipali, I would now like to come to you. You run a manufacturing facility and a sector like textiles, which is kind of known to be, which has always been on the wrong side of the news for, creating climate-related issues. And you're trying to change that narrative, and you are hiring a lot of women on your in your manufacturing facilities. So can you tell us what really is the correlation of having more women in the workforce, and how do they help in solving for climate change?
So first of all, I think it's really a pleasure to be here amongst all of you.
Thank you.
Women are leading the change, and I think the day we stop talking about women being there and the men, I think it's a world where we need both. And when I started working at Welspun, there were 7% women in the organization, and today we have 30% women. The importance of having women in the workforce, and I think we work around with 20,000 people at Welspun Living Limited. The women who's buying your product is the person who's buying the product is a woman. The person who's making that decision, at the other side of the table, for me, the merchant is a woman. So I think the importance of a woman is there. For me, that's what I realized when I started working. Today, I can say that women in the workforce can really make an impact. Today, with 30% women working at Welspun Living Limited, earlier, we did a program, and I want to tell you that while we can say that, the women, this is a problem, but I think we have to solve for it. We did a program with an NGO where we just not only did about sensitivity about hygiene with the women, multitasking with the women, but we also trained the family, about how to share the workload. And actually, that's what really made an impact. That time, from 7% to 30%, having women in the workforce really made a lot of impact. And I always believe when you lead an organization, you don't lead it in the organization, but also make an impact in the communities. So we have a program called SPUN, where we upcycle rags. So we talked about textiles being the culprit. We actually upcycle around 2 tons of rags every month. Where women make cushions and rugs out of it, and they earn around 20,000 rupees, and they operate their bank account. So when you say that, how the impact and what the women can do a whole lot of things. Women, on the other side, how, the communities where they are earning their own living, in the workforce where the women can, really lead and not only earn and become a breadwinner, but really can make decisions. And I feel it's not about just here. The programs that we do in the villages, where we have the programs called the Well Netritva, where they do entrepreneur training, where they're earning their own living. The program of digitization and upskilling the women. So, the whole idea here, Ajita, is about women can change the world, they can be the change, they can impact the world, and I think they are leading from the front. So I can just say that by the end of it, climate is something where women lead by purpose. Women want to think that they want to make an impact. And I think that's where we all need to really make the way for the women.
so much. Coming to you, Preeti. So India is becoming a leader in green growth, and with the potential to unlock at least $1 trillion in value by 2030. And it also is looking at creating 35 million jobs. So while women-led businesses are supposed to be good for, are more equipped to solve for climate change, there's also a skilling issue. I'm told that only 10% of women have at least one green skill. And skilling is a big issue. And you also are hiring a lot of women in your manufacturing facilities. So it'll be interesting to hear from you as to what kind of conversations are you having with them? How are you skilling them?
Fantastic. Good afternoon, everyone, and congratulations to everyone who's joined this elite list, and thanks to Fortune India. Just before I start my answer, by a show of hands, does everybody know where Baddi is? Okay, great. So it's like a slightly remote town close to Panchkula or Chandigarh, for the want of a better word. Essentially, Baddi is where our inverter or power electronics manufacturing plant is, and just to give you some idea of scale, we are the largest inverter manufacturer of India. And I am proud to say that we might be the only company in the country that is led by a woman in power electronics fully. So we were very intentional about this. In 2022, we looked at our production lines and we said, what can we do to bring women into the tech sector as well as the manufacturing sector? The two are not mutually exclusive. That's the guiding principle with which we work. That's part number one. Part number two, we looked at our transformer assembly lines. And by the way, my industrial head is a man, so he's not here today, but Rajiv Ganju partnered me all the way on this, and we built a vision. We said, we will have 100% women doing the transformer assembly. We produce 98% of the transformers that go into 3 million inverters in this country. That's a fair number of production of transformers. There were a few issues, Ajita. One is the men said, hang on a second, we've never worked with women on our production lines. And then they also said that the transformers are heavy, so are they going to be able to lift them? My CTO, who is also a man, Ganesh Murthy, partnered with me and my industrial head Rajiv and said, we can redesign these transformers. And we redesigned the OEM equipment for actually lifting those transformers through semi-automation equipment, and we asked our machine manufacturers to do that. It actually engendered the entire community in that, and while we were redoing that, we were innovating. We were creating jobs in the allied industries that were suppliers to us, and not to mention that we were upskilling the women who were actually going to then do transformers for India's largest manufacturing company. So here we were very proud, like we have today. This happened in 2022. 2 years later, 3 years later, as we sit here in 2025, those transformers in our nation are produced 100% by women. 40 women produce those transformers. So if you ever have a power backup or a solar inverter in your house by Luminous, you are driving not only the economy forward, you yourself are not only the climate warrior, you are actually contributing to the societal impact the women are making. So thank you for your support of Luminous inverters. The second piece which we did, the men said, we don't know how to hang out with them. And I'm a big believer of, look, I'm in a male-dominated industry. I'm the first woman who led a battery company also in the country. By the way, when I was hired, everybody said, Sachi mein ladki chala legi? Sach mein? So here we are, 4 years later. So I said, okay, we have to make friends. And I have 3 principles by which I share this with my teams and all the women who join me in this drive for being a climate warrior, but more than that, being commercially viable and profitable and relevant for the next 10 years to come. We have to take our space. That renewed economy that is coming, we will not miss this revolution. And there are 3 Ds that I share with my team members all the time. D number 1, dare. Dare to go out of the convention. It's okay, because there are other daring women who are in Luminous to support you. And if you've decided to dare, the second D is do. Do the skilling to be part of this new economy that is coming. So that would apply to our PCBA lines, to our transformer lines, to the solar PV training course, in which I'm also grateful that Australian High Commission has partnered us, which is for men and women, to the LAMP program that we run for girls, 78% of them are girls, to train them in STEM skills, all of that. Do the skilling and do the work. And third, demonstrate. Demonstrate that you are able to deliver. To that effect, I attribute my award to the women who actually increased the 8% throughput yield of that transformer line, to the women who make every PCB in my company, and to the men who support them every day. Thank you.
Wow. Coming to you, Vaishali.
Oh, okay. I was just going to add to that.
Okay. No, I remember you telling me in one of our interviews that you've been training women, mine workers, as solar...
Solar skilling.
Yeah. So I'm sure you would like to tell us a little bit about that.
No, I just want to say that I can't agree more with you, Preeti. It's really... it's really what we can do just to see what women are made of. I think sometimes we just look at the lens from what is it that we can do for them. I'm a firm believer that I don't think we need to do so much for women. I think they deserve a lot more than what's out there. And yeah, we have to keep daring and so on and so forth. In fact, in some of our boardroom meetings, as the renewable energy sector over the last decade, I just want to talk about that for a second, was growing, the boardroom conversations were, often about there's not enough manpower. And, we were like, well, we do have women power. There's so many women in rural India where, they know how to go to work. They're working in areas which are not very remunerative. So we really need to go and skill them and, fill the gap. Fill the gap at the workplace in the renewables sector. So we worked with SEWA, which is an NGO in Gujarat, and they work pan-India, to design a program to reskill salt pan workers. That's a program called Surya, where a lot of them are employed not only in our sites, but various sites in Gujarat, in Rajasthan, etc. And I must tell you that it's not that we are doing them a favor, they're doing us a favor. We've taken our board to one of our sites, and these young women were like, we don't want to just work as, kind of part of the team here. We can really be managers. So what are the other jobs you have for us? And they were asking this of the board members. So I guess, Dipali, you operate in Gujarat, and you've seen the women there are really full of so much self-confidence that it's really endearing to see. Why are we leaving them behind? It's just not right. So there's enough potential there. So we are also working in Dhanbad, with the IIT Dhanbad, to reskill women there. But the unique thing about that program is that we are reskilling coal mine workers, but we are reskilling the couples because they have to migrate from there. So as they migrate, it's more likely that they'll be able to go for a job with their spouse. So we're doing kind of couple skilling there, and then hopefully we'll be able to get them sort of to pivot from coal to renewables. So that's another program we're doing. We're working on a couple of other programs. We're working with the Australian High Commission as a part of the Prime Minister's Surya Ghar Yojana, and the Green Skill Council for reskilling women. Again, just gathering a lot of the women and reskilling them and skilling them so that we can feed in the gap in the renewable energy sector.
But how much have their incomes gone up ever since they got solar training?
A lot.
Yeah,
It's a lot. So let me tell you, a salt pan worker's income has gone up by 10 times in a year. Because, as a salt pan worker, they're employed half the year. But after the skilling, they can work throughout the year at a multiple time of what they earn every month. Of course, their health and the living conditions and all of that also improve significantly. We're also working with ITIs across India, where we are, curating renewable energy courses and building specialized courses so that the young graduates can come and work on our manufacturing facilities and various other opportunities in the sector as well. So right from the communities to the ITIs, and of course we hire from the best schools like IITs, etc., where we bring in about 50% young graduates who enter the workplace at ReNew.
Dipali would, thank you, Vaishali. Dipali, would you comment, before I move to Ritu, I mean, I have quite a few investment-related questions to ask her, but before I move on to her, would you have anything to share about how you skill your women employees at your manufacturing facility, and also what kind of conversations do you have with them? What are their concerns and how do you deal with it?
So when you talk about manufacturing, I think for us, it is about, making that, spinning, weaving, and processing, and the cut and sew, and the entire process. And I think when you think about manufacturing, you'll think about the machines. But I think with us, we are 100% automated. Industry 4.0, AI is a very important aspect. I met somebody here in the audience, and she said one of her students is working with us. So we also talk about analytics here. So like for me, because we are present in more than 70 countries across the globe, and at the front end, what the consumer will buy is kind of what the data you really need. So you have these young kids who are data scientists who are working as well. While at the factories, when you're talking about, these are not just girls who are working there, they're also looking at the complete entire supply chain. Because for us, when you talk about cotton and the entire gamut of things, it's blockchain. You also need to know that, okay, what that consumer is going to buy is what you're going to make. So what you're going to make on the machine. So it's again about the projections, the complete analytics. So while you should have these skill sets of what you're doing on the machines, you also need to understand the data. So that's the kind of upskilling that we do with them on digital platforms. So when you're teaching them not only Industry 4.0, you're also teaching them AI. So, I think you'll not believe it or not imagine, we make 1 million units of towels every single day. So when you're doing the towel counting, you get human fatigue. So one of our girls made this program where you could do the towel counting with AI. And she got herself registered on NASSCOM and they won. So these are these things in a kind of a remote area in Kutch is something where the women are doing. So it's about confidence and believing in themselves. I think there's a lot of things when you talk about technology or arming them with skills. It's also about a belief in themselves. Because when I started working 25 years back, it was not about just with my skill sets that I started working. It was about the belief that, yes, I can do it. Yes, I'll have somebody. And I think more than anything else, you need support from your family. You need support from your peers. And also you need support from, kind of team of women supporting women. And I think that's what it was, Ajita. So more than anything else, it's about the confidence that the women need to say that, okay, they can do it. So I think that's what I believe and, instill in. Even in the communities when the women are earning their living, it is about, yes, they can do and they can earn. It's about the data analyst sitting there who can say that, okay, I can sit and run this program for Walmart and go and sit in front of the customer. That designer who's sitting and working and saying that, okay, I can make the most beautiful product or design, is something that is the belief that she can do. So, it is a multifaceted thing that you have to continuously do. And in textiles, it's not just about manufacturing. It is about that consumer at the last mile. You're making that design thinking program for that consumer, what she's going to buy. To that, again, about sustainability. I think I must tell everybody that, we have these farm workers whom we got ahead. So when we talk about, farmers, you have mainly in your mind male farmers, but there are these female farmers who make more than 60% of the workforce at the farms. So getting them ahead, making them giving them that respect, I think in the terms of cotton was a very important aspect of a program that we did. So I think it's in the entire supply chain, Ajita, that, you continue to skill and upskill. Whether it's in the villages, whether it's in the communities, whether it's in the farms, whether it's in the machine, on the machines, or whether it's a global supply chain that you're talking about. And you have to constantly do that. And it's upskilling, and it's about last but not the least, and the most important thing is belief in yourself. Because I believe that if you believe in yourself, you'll be able to do anything. Because in this world, and I think everybody will agree, that you are armed with a degree, but you're already unlearning that. You're unlearning to learn, because now when you're doing coding, a tech person who was doing coding long time back is now learning how to use AI. So I think in this world, which is so dynamically and fast changing, you'll have to continuously upskill. And we are arming our women, not only at the factory and the workforce, but at the front end to take that forward.
Thank you so
I
much.
just wanted to make a quick point for all the young women sitting at the back, very enthusiastically listening to all of us, that, you made a very good point, Dipali, that, women need support and women need encouragement, and some women have the drive to just push and go ahead. It's really important, whether it is at home or whether you're at work. When you need something, but you really have to step up and ask for things, because otherwise you're not going to get them. So whether it's at home, I think people are just so used to having men go to work and women stay at home. And as we pivot, we really need to make it clear that we want to go to work, and there is a support. So you have to proactively build the ecosystem of friends and family who support you and make it possible. Similarly, at work, like even at Renew, there are many young women who are ready to go to the sites and go and work there. But men at the workplace, with all good intentions, take it for granted that perhaps it's inconvenient for you to do that. So it's really important for you and for us to push ourselves and ask for things, because nobody's going to give it to you otherwise. So I just
Thank you. I finally come to Ritu. So actually our next panel is on women in entrepreneurship. And out of all the stories that I've done, the research I've done all these years, I increasingly have got to know that women-led businesses in general find it difficult to raise funds. If you're only a women-led business, if you don't have a male co-founder, those businesses find it difficult. As an investor, and you also do a lot of climate-led investments, how important is diversity?
Sure. Maybe I build on what Dipali was saying because it's very close to my heart. I often say, whenever I'm asked by youngsters, not just women, you have to believe in yourself before the world believes in you. And you spoke so eloquently about it that it was resonating truly. The doubts there, enough people around you to raise. Talking about investments, the world that I belong to, it is pretty much a male bastion, and yes, it is not so common to find women. Interestingly, I lead a team across 13 countries in Asia, about 25 companies we have in Asia, and each has a large investment team. I represent Allianz, which is a large global financial institution. I have 60% of the workforce, the investment leaders, investment officers who are women, just purely because of inclusive meritocracy. It's not that we go out or give mandates that we would select women. We just try to make sure that it is an even playing ground. And the more the role models, the more like a magnet you attract talent. Women also find it uncomfortable to be in decision-making groups where they're only men, decision makers. And hence, I think bringing that toggle, making that change, having more women in that work environment automatically starts drawing more and more. In my own team in Singapore, at one point, I didn't realize that it happened. There was only one guy left in the team. And he came up to me one day and said, Ritu, do you think about diversity? And I was like, okay, maybe I have to consciously work on diversity. But it's interesting how one cannot be conscious of it, but the world notices. Yesterday, I met a colleague, industry colleague, who I was meeting after 20 years. So way back when I in MetLife is when he was interacting with me, and he remembered that even there, you were a 3-women team. And I was like, you remember that about 20 years back? To me, it speaks volumes about how unique it ends up being, even if one is not doing consciously, and how important it is more and more to put out role models. And like you rightly said, hence it is very difficult for women who are raising money, running funds, and there are quite a few illustrious ones, but very few. You can count them probably on one hand, at best at 2. who do that. So again, I think the more we see, the more we will have, because I think finance comes very naturally to women, though it's presumed to be our weak spot. But I think every woman is a finance manager. She runs home, she runs finances.
Preeti, you have a venture fund which invests in climate-led businesses. So it'll be interesting to hear from you as to when you invest in these climate-led businesses, how important is diversity for you?
I just want to make sure that everybody is on the same page. The biggest climate financier of this century is Honorable Sita Raman, running the Pradhan Mantri Surya Yojana scheme. And of course, our Pradhan Mantri himself. So they've both endorsed diversity, and that's absolutely 100% female-led financing of consumer homes. So kudos to them, and we are very delighted that we are part of that change. For those who may not know, Luminous Power Technologies is 100% owned by Schneider Electric, which is the largest global energy management giant in the world. We have a Schneider Electric venture fund. As I sit here today, I think we have around $1 billion in the venture fund worth of assets under management. In India alone, we are starting to make investments. So roughly across the globe, each year around 50 to 100 million is deployed, all in climate-led businesses. So companies, actually a Gujarat-based company, Aram, which is a climate financing tech platform that is being funded by Schneider Electric Ventures. So I'm very proud to kind of look at that. But what we do is we don't just invest in that early stage startup and say, go ahead, do what you have to do. We bring businesses such as Luminous next to them. So what does a startup need? A startup needs scale. What has Luminous got? Luminous has got scales. It has got a large distribution network, 100 million consumers. We add roughly 320,000 consumer homes to our business each year. And in all of those, we connect 100 grid-tied inverters per day. So it's not just enough sometimes our approach is to just give money. It's about actually giving the startups a collaboration and a partnership. And that's how Schneider and its companies, its subsidiaries, work in India today and, of course, across the world as well. So, and if more women run those startups, for sure. Can I just say, I am a woman who has run businesses. I have raised money as well in my previous life. Capital is gender neutral. It's idea focused, it's courage focused, it's competence focused, but it's gender neutral. So for the women who are actually thinking about capital raising, I have another 3A framework, de do, Ajita. So if you are raising money, number one, demonstrate number one, ambition. No venture capitalist or investor, Ritu will probably agree, likes to invest in small ambition. They like big ambition. Number two, achieve. Show that you have achieved or you will achieve in that meeting with confidence. And number three, ask. Ask shamelessly for the 10 million. And if you want 10 million, ask for 25. The biggest learning I have is that. Thank you.
Preeti, very well said on the last part, if you need 10, ask for 25, but I disagree with the fact that capital is gender neutral. I think they're very biased. A man seeking funds with half the capabilities and competency will get funded versus a woman who is way more capable. I don't want to convert these, they're facts. People are not funding women-led startups. Unfortunately, data proves that, but I wish you were right. My experience is that there is still a gap.
Ritu, you have opportunity, huh? You have opportunity. Please step up and invest.
I do think it is difficult for women to be taken seriously, especially when they're starting off with a business and to raise capital. And I do see that around me.
So Ritu, coming back to you again, we live in a world where disruptions have become a way of life, and especially climate-led disruptions.
Yes.
So how does one factor these disruptions into one's business model so that they're able to build a business that would last a test of time?
Sure. And who knows that better than an insurance company, which I represent? Just this last year, I think we had, not we as a company, the economy had about 350 billion climate-related losses, of which only about 120 billion were insured, which means that climate is disrupting businesses, daily lives, people's homes quite significantly. Of course, there are technology solutions which are now helping address or prevent or preempt the challenges that come along and to take remedial action. But I think every starfish that you throw back into the water counts, and hence it is so important for each business, for each household, for each corporation to be getting very conscious. I know no more is it very fashionable to talk about climate, especially in some parts of the world. But the destruction to the world is so imminent, is so visible that we would really do ourselves big disservice as organizations if we were not addressing it at each organization level. I can see Dipali nodding vociferously. Be it energy transition, which needs a lot of funding, be it diversity, in all aspects, it is pretty important that we do not forget the classical ESG.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope all of you learned a lot just as I did, and it was a fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for your time.